Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast is the football podcast, and this is where it gets weird. We're a man down. That's nothing new. It's a different man. By now, you've probably been getting used to seeing less faces on the football podcast, hearing less voices. There's still only three of us, but it's a different three. Find out which three by listening or watching along. Before we do get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Share the podcast around. That's the big one. Share the podcast around. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the football podcast.
Recording in progress.
Oh, hi. Sorry, didn't see you there. Come on in. The water's lovely. Welcome along, ladies and gentlemen, to another week of football-based podcasting material for you. I can see it now. You're looking at the screen. You're trying to work it out. What's going on? There's only three faces on here. But those of you who've been watching the football podcast for the last number of weeks will notice that there have only been three faces the last couple of weeks. Scheduling conflicts have sadly put pace to all four of us being able to get into a virtual room together to bring you your football updates on the reg, as I believe the kids are saying these days. But Mr. Moore, sadly not able to be with us this evening to bring you the tastiest morsels from a Nottingham Forest perspective. So we'll do our best to pick up the slack in his absence. But joining us again after a couple of weeks off the docket is Hull City supporting Mr. Stuart Woodmansey. How are we, sir?
I'm not doing too badly, thank you. Nice to be back talking actual football. Obviously been to a couple of games since I was last on as well. But yeah, I'm pleased that my issues have worked themselves out this week so that I can talk some Hull City.
Absolutely. Scheduling conflicts. Damned, I say. And obviously here again in his usual guise as the person leading the charge against mediocre podcasting, it is Mr. Andrew Cook. How are we, sir?
Oh, I'm just a delight.
Lovely stuff. Exactly what we want to hear these days. So, week 8, ladies and gentlemen, started as it meant to go on. And it was indeed. The person who's not here, it was his team. It was Manchester City taking on Nottingham Forest. Now, this one, I believe, last season finished 5-0 to City, 6-0 to City. It was one or the other. It was quite the pasting, shall we say. So the fact that Manchester City only scored 2 against Nottingham Forest this time out probably speaks volumes as to how much of leaps and bounds that Nottingham Forest have taken. Mr. Woodmansey has a point he would like to make.
But this time around, they did play pretty much the second half against 10 men on the basis of
I was going to get to that.
Man sent off, didn't they?
Yeah, I was going to get to that. Rodri unfortunately got himself sent off for what I've not seen the goals, but I've seen a still shot of him basically just doing his best Undertaker impression and trying to choke slam a guy, or at least choke the guy from Forest. So probably quite understandable as to why he was given his marching orders over Rodri. So he'll miss a couple of games in the Premier League in the coming weeks. Matters not to Nottingham Forest, of course. Like I say, unfortunately, I haven't seen the goals. Have either of you two seen either of the strikes from Foden or Mr. Haaland?
I haven't actually. As you know, we were predisposed on Saturday afternoon, so I haven't had a chance to catch up, but had heard that the red card was not up for debate, is how it was phrased, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But yes, goals apiece from Phil Foden and Erling Haaland were enough to put Nottingham Forest to the sword. Now, from a predictions perspective, that was good for us because we'd all picked varying degrees of Manchester City win. However, we did all think that Nottingham Forest would get on the score sheet, and we've all therefore picked a 1-0 to get that goal. Sadly, no points there for each of us. I had Haaland to score twice and Alvarez to score twice for Man City. Stuart had Haaland to score twice, Alvarez and Foden to score for Man City. Matt had Haaland, Alvarez and Doku to score for Man City. And Andy had Haaland and Foden to score for Man City. So Andy was the closest of all of us with a 2-1 Manchester City win. So I got 2 points, correct result, and a goal for Erling Haaland. Matt also had correct result and a goal for Erling Haaland, whereas Mr. Woodmansey and Mr. Cook had correct result and a goal each for Haaland and Foden. So 2 points for me, 2 points for Matt, 3 points for Stu, 3 points for Andy. We move in to the second game of the week, which was my boys taking on Southampton. And obviously I went into this game full of absolutely no hope whatsoever because Middlesbrough were still looking for their first win of the season. Sorry, first league win of the season. They, of course, won in the first and second round of the Capital One. Is it the Capital One? It's not the Capital One, it's the Carabao Cup. I do apologise, the League Cup. Were they able to finally get that monkey off their back and get the first league win of the season against Southampton? To quite a few people's surprise, yes, they actually were winning this game 2-1. They did, however, manage to keep up their run of conceding first in every game they've played so far this season, where Adam Armstrong opened the score in the first half. The ball was played into Che Adams just outside the box. He held the ball up and then just played a nice little through ball into the box into Armstrong's path. Armstrong got out of his feet and then just slid the ball straight under the advancing Steady Dieng in the goal to open the scoring to make it 1-0. We're on a chance to equalise a little bit further after that, where the ball was played across the box with Riley McGree just sort of coming in on the back stick. Sadly, he wasn't able to get to the ball early enough and was just able to hit the post as it was going out of play. So sadly, he wasn't able to latch onto that. However, try as he might, Mr. McGree was rewarded for his efforts later on in the first half when Isaiah Jones on the left-hand side won the ball back just outside the box, played the ball across to Riley McGree, who brought it on to the edge of the box and finished with a nice crisp drive into the bottom of the net to make it 1-1 going into half-time. Moving into the second half, Middlesbrough were awarded what looked at times to be a slightly controversial penalty. There was a bit of holding from Josh Coburn on Taylor Harwood-Bellis in the penalty area. It looked like it was a bit of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. And by the time the ref had focused on the incident, it was Mr. Harwood-Bellis that was bringing down Mr. Coburn. So he pointed at the spot and gave Middlesbrough the penalty that Johnny Howson stepped up and thoroughly dispatched into the bottom corner of the net. I believe which was caught on camera, was him even having time to hit the griddy, as I believe the kids in the Americas are saying these days. I'm not going to lie, I could have guessed probably every single person in the Middlesbrough squad as a person who would hit the griddy before I would have selected Mr. Howson to be the person to do that particular dance. However, it was fantastic to see. And they hung on to get their first league win of the season. Will it kick them on to be able to move up the table? Only time will tell. I, of course, had gone into this match with absolutely no optimism whatsoever, as I had gone for a 2-1 Southampton win. So I don't get any points for the correct result. I had Latte Laugh to score for Middlesbrough, Adams and Armstrong to score for Southampton, so I do get myself a bonus point for the goal scorer. Stuart just gone for a bog standard 0-0 draw with this one, so sadly no points there. Andy had gone for a 2-0 Middlesbrough win, with Latte Laugh and Fours to score the goals. No points there for the point for the result. Mr. Moore, however, 2-1 Middlesbrough win, with Crooks, McGree and Armstrong to score the goals. So he was almost on for a full vote there. We'll just have to settle for the 4 points. So 4 points for Matt, a point each for myself and Andy, no points for Stu. Our third game of the week saw Andy's adopted team, playing away at Carlisle United. Sadly, this one finished as a 2-0 win for Derby County. Sadly, we do have to talk about them next week. 2 goals for James Collins. Haven't seen the goals. Don't really want to watch the goals. Let's move on. I had gone for a 2-1 Carlisle United win. Damn, didn't happen. Did have Collins to score for Derby though. 1 point to me. Matt and Andy had both gone for 1-0 Carlisle wins, so sadly no points for those boys. Mr. Woodmansey had sensibly gone for the 1-0 Derby County win. However, Elder did not score the goal, so just the 1 point for Mr. Woodmansey for the result. Point each for myself and him, no points for Matt and Andy. Our second to last game of the week saw Sunday action and live Sky TV action, where Stoke City were taking on Mr. Woodmansey's boys, Hull City. You didn't go into this one particularly optimistic, but maybe you should have done, Mr. Woodmansey.
This was a shock. You might be able to tell from the tone of my voice. So I will preface this by, we went into the Stoke game 6 games unbeaten, and it gets to the point where I start getting edgy about stuff like this, because every time it gets brought up, something bad's going to happen. Well, not today. Usually that bad thing to happen for Hull of late has been Matt Ingram and his rubbish distribution, but we did pick up Allsop, as we mentioned, from Cardiff. So a new goalkeeper came in for the last couple of games, saw him in person. In his first game, won player of the match, and has a very strong case for getting it in this game too. However, not because he made lots of saves, but because his distribution set the wheels in motion for 2 of 3 goals. So we'll start at the end. The final score was Stoke 1, Hull City 3. The first goal was Aaron Connolly, so everybody cheered apart from Paul on 30 minutes. Then 2 minutes later, Adama Traore atoned for his open goal miss in the Leeds game slightly earlier that week. Sticking away, well, Stoke were pressing high, and Hull have been insistent on playing out from the back. You may be aware of this. I may have mentioned how much I hate it from time to time, especially when it's not working. Well, the new keeper adapted things slightly, saw what Stoke were doing. Simple ball over the top, but out to the wing. Connolly picked it up just over the halfway line, cut in from the left, scuffed his shot, and it very kindly fell to Traore, although he did have his back to goal at the time, and on a pivot, smashed it in the bottom right-hand corner. Things were looking insanely good after 73 minutes, as Hull City scored a third. However, Sky have this down, and this is the tricky bit for you, Paul. Sky have this down still as a Regan Slater strike but it was at the time debated as an own goal from Gooch. The player, he didn't smack the ball there. Slater took a shot from the edge of the box, left-hand side, and it kind of, for want of a better expression, went in off Gooch's arse. Yeah. So, obviously, they found that as hilarious as I did, switched off for a couple of minutes, and Vidigal scored a consolation goal on 77 minutes. But, generally speaking, Hull never really looked too uncomfortable, which makes me feel weird to say, but things are starting to look a little better at the moment. So yeah, I'm very happy with football at the moment, so I can't complain at all.
Well, isn't it nice to have a happy perspective on the podcast for more than one team? This is groundbreaking territory. For the instances of the book, I'm just going to keep Slater as the third goal scorer. Okay. It made very little difference to the score, as no one selected him and no one also selected own goal. So, from a recording of results perspective, it doesn't really make too much of a difference.
You're telling me that nobody picked Gooch?
No one was picking Gooch, mainly because I didn't even remember the fact that he'd left Sunderland and gone to Stoke. So that'll probably be part of the reason why I wasn't picking him. And also wasn't picking him to score own goals, rather than in the correct area. From a results perspective, least optimistic was actually the Hull City fan himself, as Stuart gone for a 1-0 Stoke win with Berger to get the goal. So no points for Mr. Woodmansey there. Next least optimistic was myself. I'd gone for a 1-1 draw with Wesley and Delap to get the goals. No points there for me. Mr. Cook had gone for a 1-0 Hull City win with Delap to score the goals, so got himself a point for the correct result. Mr. Moore, coming through in the clutch again, had gone for a 2-1 Hull win with Berger to score for Stoke, Delap and Connolly to score for Hull. So he gets himself a point for the result and a point for the correct goal scorer. Finishing off week 8 saw last night's game, not to date the podcast whatsoever, but yesterday we saw Bradford City take on Middlesbrough, and some of us may have even watched this game live in the flesh. Middlesbrough started the game well, straight out of the block. We put Bradford on the back foot. Hayden Hackney especially looked particularly all action, trying to pick the ball up from deep, looking to play little balls in behind, and maybe look for the sort of the killer ball with every single pass. Probably a slight criticism of him at the moment, if there is one, is that he's always looking to make the killer pass. He's not something that he will play the ball short occasionally, but more often than not, he's always looking for that killer ball, and he more often than not passes it straight to one of the opposition. But not ideal. But if you take that out of his game, you lose a massive part of how he is as a player. And he's only young, so I'm assuming he will learn that he needs to be a bit more conservative with the ball, shall we say. But it worked for the opening goal. It was actually Mr. Hackney who picked up the ball from deep with a challenge. He drove through the middle of the park, drawing the defender off him. He played a little reverse sort of through ball into the path of Mr. Emmanuel Lath, who just ended up in the middle of the box and finished smartly under the goalkeeper for 1-0. Bradford came into it a little bit more in the second half. They had a shot from the edge of the box that flashed just over the top of the bar. It was about as good as it got from their perspective. They never really sort of challenged the Borough goalkeeper too much. And in the second half, Borough made the game safe. Second goal scored by Morgan Rogers. Riley McGree picked up the ball on the right hand side of the pitch, just over near the corner flag, cut back inside, laid a little reverse ball into the box for Rogers to pick up. He kept going into the 6-yard box and just hit a shot that hit the underside of the keeper and then sort of hit the underside of the bar and went in. It was a bit of a strange one because he almost didn't look as if he looked. I don't know if he was just checking with the assistant to see if he was getting flagged as offside, but he didn't seem to celebrate when it went in. So most of the crowd also didn't celebrate at first. It was a bit of a strange one. Obviously, the goal stood. Nothing. There was no flag. Nothing from the assistant to say that the ball went out or the goal should stand. So 2-0 to the Borough. A couple more chances came and went. There was a free kick on the edge of the box that Dan Barlaser had just smashed wide. But other than that, like I say, Borough were in control from pretty much from start to finish on this one. A very confident performance, a very needed performance at this point. And wonders will never cease. It was the first game all season where Middlesbrough, 1, didn't concede, and 2, didn't concede the first goal of the game. So, happy days all around. A 2-0 win for Middlesbrough, into the hat for the round 4 drawing of the Carabao Cup, which will be made after the Newcastle Man City game finishes. Predictions wise, Stuart gone for a 1-0 Bradford win with Athoka to score the goal. Sadly, no points for Mr. Woodmansey there. The rest of us had gone for varying degrees of Middlesbrough win. Andy had gone for 1-0 with Silvera to score. Silvera did come very close to scoring in the first half, actually. Just flashed an effort just wide of the keeper's left-hand post. Sadly, that was as good as he got for Mr. Silvera. He did come into it a little bit more in the second half, but he still looks like he needs a bit more game time, a bit more time to get used to the sort of the speed of the English game, really. Matt had gone for a 2-1 for a win. Walker to score for Bradford City. Rogers and Latte Laugh to score for the Borough. So Matt gets himself 3 points for that particular game there. I had gone for a 2-0 Middlesbrough win. 2 points for the correct score. I thought I'd even picked both goal scorers, but looking here, I had Barlaser for the first and Rogers for the second. So just the 3 points for myself from that game. So quite a lot of points scored this week. In reverse order, Mr. Woodmansey, 4 points from 5 games. Second place, Mr. Cook, 6 points from 5 games. Second place, myself, 7 points from 5 games. Taking the win this week with a whopping 11 points from 5 games. Mr. Matthew Moore. He's not here to celebrate in person, but well done, sir. 11 points for you. That is week 8.
I don't want to be the guy that points out that Matt's always not here when he absolutely dominates the week.
It does seem to be a bit of a pattern that he has a big week and he's not here to bask in the glow and rub it in our faces that he's so much better at predicting mainly our team's games rather than so much than his own. But part and parcel of the game, ladies and gentlemen. That's week 8, done and dusted. We're going to take a little small break just to recompose ourselves, ready to do week 9's predictions, and there are quite a lot of games in week 9. I believe 7 in total to go through. So we're going to need to get ourselves a pretty stiff drink to make it through all 7 games. But you guys don't have to do anything. It'll just come up in your feed like nothing happened. We're going to step away just momentarily though, so we will be with you shortly.
Recording in progress.
Told you. Momentary, instantaneous for you guys. God, feels like it was hours when we were back in this room. But we're back again to take you through Week 9's games and Week 9's predictions from our perspective. So, Week 9 kicks off on Saturday with Hull City taking on Plymouth Argyle, who will have travelled just down the road a mere, 5.5 hours or something like that. Just a short trip.
They'll be in the Hilton the night before. It'll be fine, I'm sure.
Obviously, it's Mr. Woodmansey's team, so he will give his prediction last. As Mr. Moore is not here, sadly, he has supplanted me with some predictions for the games. So I'll jump in and I'll give Mr. Moore's prediction right now. He has gone for a 2-1 Hull City win here. He's gone for Connolly and Delap to score for Hull. Hardy to score for Plymouth. I, on the other hand, have just gone for a 2-0 Hull City win. I've gone for Traore and Cannoli.
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 Cannoli. It's like an Italian pastry, I believe.
I think what he's done is he's conned me with his current form into picking him. But yes, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. I've actually picked Aaron Connolly to score a goal. I mean, wonders will never cease. And
you've picked him to potentially score his 6th goal of the season.
Well, let's just put it this way. If he doesn't score, he won't be getting picked again for a while.
He'll score if you don't pick him.
2-0, Connolly and Traore for me. Mr. Cook, what have you got for this one?
1-0 to Hull, Delap to score.
1-0 with the dilapidator to get the goal. Going off what you were saying earlier, do we need to be concerned, Mr. Woodmansey?
About what I'm about to pick.
You said you were concerned in the fact that they're obviously in the midst of a long, unbeaten run.
Yeah, so obviously six games now extends to 7, and we come up against a team that have just absolutely pumped Norwich, which all of you seemingly have forgotten. So I'm guessing this is the point where I now reveal that my prediction for this weekend is Hull 0, Plymouth 2. So I've got Edwards and Azaz to score for Plymouth.
For those of you that have been listening to the podcast or watching the podcast for a number of years now, Mr. Woodmansey seems to have taken the approach that Mr. Moore had for a number of years, he would just go for crazy results that were never in the realms of possibility because he had no faith in his team whatsoever. But if it works as an approach, who knows? It might be successful, it might not.
If I'm adopting Matt's approach, though, just remind me who won the predictions this week.
Well, yeah, but did he? Oh, well, no.
If he's not here to find out, is the...
Absolutely did. Our second game of the week is my boys. It's Watford taking on Middlesbrough. Watford, historically, not a happy hunting ground for the borough. My team, I'll give my prediction last. I'll dive straight in here with Mr. Moore's prediction, though. He's gone for a 1-1 draw. Martins to score for Watford and McGree to score for the borough. Mr. Cook, what have you got for this one?
2-0 to the borough, or 0-2 if you want to be, that way.
Goal scorers?
I've got the coffee man himself, Latte Laugh, and Fours to score the other one.
Very nice. Stu?
I've taken a scoring page out of Mr. Moore's book. I have gone for a 1-1 draw. I've got is it Rajovic possibly for Watford, and then Crooks for Borough. He's overdue, surely.
Well, he did score against Blackburn in the league a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
It did stand, but it was hugely offside. So yes, he's probably due a legitimate goal at some point. What the hell was that name you just said for Watford?
Rajovic is Rajovic.
Rajovic.
Yep. Rajovic or Rajovic.
Interesting. Not a name I've heard. For the third time in this particular prediction, we're going to hear the score 1-1. I've gone for Bayo to score for Watford and McGree to score for the Borough. Like I said, not a happy hunting ground. It's been a while since we've actually got anything other than a defeat at that particular place. So it'll be interesting to see if we can buck the trend and get a draw. Our next game sees Derby currently taking on Cambridge United. Obviously, it's Mr. Cook's team. We use that in very loose terms. So he will go last. Stu, what have you got for this one?
Unfortunately, I have got a prediction. That means we will continue to discuss those particular people. I've gone for Derby 2, Cambridge 0, with Waghorn and Smith to score for Derby.
2-0, clearly a popular prediction for this particular game, as both me and Mr. Moore have also picked 2-0 wins for Derby. I've gone for James Collins and Sibley to score, whereas Matt has gone for Waghorn and Collins to score. Mr. Cook, you may notice there, shaking his head triumphantly, as he believes it will be the following score.
As delighted as I am to be supporting Derby, I have a 0-1.
Your goal scorer for Cambridge?
Now, as we know, I may or may not have some trouble pronouncing certain, words. Me don't do words too good. So the fact that I put down this name, Ahadme.
Let's have a look.
I literally took it off the website. Available, all that sort of good stuff.
Yes, I see that the weekend he played against Port Vale. Up front, Ghassan Ahadme. I mean, it's amazing to me that he didn't want to go for Fajiri Okenabiri.
Yeah, I was like, really gonna try and tackle that one. So I thought I had me a good time.
Ahadme at hello. Our next game is Mr. Moore's team. It's Nottingham Forest taking on Brentford. This is our only live fixture of the weekend. Can be found on Sunday, live on the Sky Sports, a 2 p.m. kickoff, no less. His team, I will give his prediction last. I'll jump straight in here. I've gone for a 1-1 draw on this one. Gibbs White for Forest and Mbuemo to score for Brentford. Stu, what have you got for this one?
Also got a 1-1 draw. I've got Hudson Odoi for Forest. And he's back on the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Former Hull City youth prodigy, Keane Lewis Potter.
Mr. Lewis Potter, I believe, currently getting an extended run in the first team at Brentford, by the looks of things, which is an odd phenomenon. Andy, what have you got for this one?
1-0 to Forest. A Wonyi.
And your goal scorer?
A Wonyi.
So I think I'm going to talk over you there.
A Wonyi.
A Wonyi. Mr. Moore has gone for a 2-2 draw on this one. And Wonyi and Gibbs White to score for Forest. Mbuemo and Dissa to score for Brentford. We move to the midweek slate of games, which starts with Ipswich Town versus Hull City. Mr. Woodmansey's team, he will go last. Matt, has gone for a 2-1 Ipswich win. Broadhead and Ladapo to score for Ipswich. Delap to get the goal for Hull. Andy, what have you got for this one?
1-0 to Hull. I went with Syed Manesh.
Syed. Manesh. I agree with Matt. I've also gone for a 2-1 Ipswich win. I've gone for Chaplin and Burns to score for Ipswich. Slater to get the goal for Hull. How is it actually going to pan out? Do you reckon they'll have got the loss out of the way so they can dive back into a nice run of 6 or 7 unbeaten?
No. So firstly, super special mention to the idiot who decided to make Hull go to Ipswich on a goddamn Tuesday night. That is a horrendous journey. What the hell are they thinking? That is just ridiculous. But no, it's another one of them teams where they're in a decent run at the moment. Probably not the best time to be playing them. It's a crappy journey on a Tuesday, so I've gone for 1-0 Ipswich with Chaplin to score the goal.
Sometimes indeed. Yeah, I know what you mean there. Like they get thrown together like so often though, where it's just like a little bit of common sense. Just take that fixture out of the midweek slot and just put them in there, like a team that's slightly nearer, even if it's like an hour's journey, rather than 4. But that I'll inevitably end up taking. Speaking of a ridiculous journey to be making on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, midweek, mid-season, takes us to Middlesbrough versus Cardiff City. I believe this is the 2nd or possibly 3rd season in a row where Cardiff are having to make the trip to Middlesbrough on a midweek night. Just a crazy journey to be making midweek. My team, I will of course go last. Stu, what have you got for this one?
Unfortunately for you, Paul, I have got Cardiff winning 1-0 with Grant scoring the goal.
Grant?
Yeah, not my gran, Grant.
Good to know. We got the definition there. Andy?
2-1 to the Borough.
Yes.
Coburn and Falls for the Borough. And Robinson for Cardiff.
Oh, yes. Robinson, I believe he notched this evening in the cup against Blackburn. Matt has gone for a 2-1 Middlesbrough win. Crooks and Latte Laugh. The Borough, Ugbo. For Cardiff, I've gone for a 2-0 Middlesbrough win. Getting the optimistic out. I've dug around in the cupboard. I found the optimism hat. I've placed it thoroughly on my bonds. I've dove in. Coburn and Crooks to get the goals in a 2-0 for a win. Final game of the week sees Blackpool take on. This would be the best place where if Andy could make that soundboard, he could just patch in Derby County as the replacement team that's playing against Blackpool this week. Obviously, as stated before, it is Andy's team. As disappointed as that makes us, so he will go last. I've gone for a 2-1 Blackpool win on this one. I've gone for Jordan Rhodes to get 2 and Waghorn to score for Derby. Matt agrees, has also gone for a 2-1 Blackpool win, but has gone for Rhodes and Lavery with Collins to score for Derby. Stu?
Almost. I've got 2-2. So, got Rhodes and Norburn for Blackpool, and Collins and Nelson for Derby.
Collins, Nelson, giving us the final prediction of the week, closing out the podcast. Mr. Cook, how will this one come to pass?
If Cambridge United can't get it done, then Blackpool will. It's a 2-0 Blackpool win. Rhodes, and said it with the correct voice, Beasley.
What?
Beasley.
Oh.
But in the correct voice, it's Beasley.
Just the sheer look of panic on Paul's face then.
What's up now? There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. 7 games predicted. 7 sets of predictions. Written lovingly in the book. They have been stuck in the record books for all eternity. We'll go through the games next week, break it down, see how many points were scored, and we'll go through the next set of predictions for the week after. Thank you as always to all of you wonderful people for tuning in to this week's podcast. Thank you again to Mr. Cook and Mr. Woodmansey. Obviously, hopefully we should have Mr. Moore back on the podcast next week for a full boat of podcasters. Yeah, we'll see how we get on. That's it for now. That's it for this week, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much for joining us once again. And until next week, we will see you later on. Tatty bye.
So there you go. What do you think to that? Big thank you to the guys. Big thank you to you for listening. Matt, as always, we miss you. Look forward to seeing you back next week, hopefully. Before you go, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave reviews where you can leave reviews. Check out the website, it's thecookiecast.com. There you find our social media links, our email button. That way you can get in touch with us. That is it for this one. Come back next week for more games, more reviews, previews, news, predictions. But until then, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to these grumpy old men talk about football. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.